Last game on the NES, everyone. Let's do this. Welcome, retro gamers, to Super Mario Summer, the time of the year where I stop to talk about my favorite video game franchise ever, Super Mario. Right here, right now, we reached the final mainline game in the series that was released on the NES. And I'm very happy about that. Look, while I can recognize the fact that these games, minus Lost Levels, are classics, they are also games that I respect more than I actually like. Perhaps if I actually grew up with them, like how I did with the 2000s to early 2010s Mario games, maybe I would feel a little different. But either or, we are now at the Mario game that some consider to be the best.
After the Lost Levels was finished, Takashi Tezuka wanted this third game to basically be a complete renovation of the brand, going as far as to have this game play with an isometric viewpoint originally. Luckily that idea didn't stay, since it definitely would have resulted in a pretty annoying game to play. While they went back to the formula that they created back in '85, they still didn't want this game to be like their last and just reuse assets and up the difficulty. They knew that it was time to start actually working and refining the formula. Programming a new moveset for Mario was one of them, along with making new sprites, sounds, and themes. This time the development team went from 5 to 20 or 30 people working on it. It's clear that Nintendo is taking Super Mario Bros. 3's development very seriously, to the point where they delayed the game for 6 months because it was simply not polished enough. All of this work more than paid off on October 23rd, 1988, where Super Mario Bros. 3 was met with overwhelmingly positive reviews. To this day, there are still some people that argue that Super Mario Bros. 3 is one of, if not the best game in the series.
Do I think that Super Mario Bros. 3 is the best game in the series? Not quite. Don't get me wrong, this game is certainly a classic, and a very good game to boot. But best game in the series? I'm not so sure about that. I do believe that this is the very first game in the franchise that is truly good, so while I'm glad my memory is accurate, I cannot help but feel that the game has dated quite a bit. Not anywhere close to the degree of the first game, but still some things that feel not great. Anyway, let's grab our Tanuki suit and fly up to Super Mario Bros. 3.
The third game does not take place in the Mushroom Kingdom, but instead the Mushroom World. So the Mushroom Kingdom was a gateway to the Mushroom World or something. The kingdom is doing fine, but the rest of the world isn't, with Bowser allowing his kids to cause chaos and steal the wands from the kings in a bunch of different countries. It feels weird referring to different areas in the Super Mario world as countries. It just feels weird. They use the stolen wands to turn the kings into animals, your goal being to of course retrieve the wands to turn the kings back into their true forms. The story in this game is It's just a very simple plot where the bad guy does a bad thing and the good guy has to stop it. What gives this story something worth mentioning is that this is the game that introduces us to the Koopalings. I really like their designs and all, but they don't have a lot of personality, at least in this game. But apart from that, yeah, that's it. The overall gameplay in Super Mario Bros. 3 is pretty good, and a big improvement from the last 3 games. The controls are good. Still not quite perfect, there is a bit of sensitivity with them, but these are far less irritating to deal with than the controls from the predecessors. The momentum has been tweaked to near perfection, and the speed is perfect. Not too fast or too slow. The jump height has also seen a great improvement from before. Mario jumps higher and further, making some of the more awkward jumps way less of a hassle. You can easily clear a lot of levels without sprinting, so if you want to take your time while platforming, you can. Even the sprinting itself has seen an improvement. If you run for long enough, this P meter builds up, and when filled up, you can use it to make very high jumps as regular Mario. And that's just with regular Mario, because if you either have a Super Leaf or a Tanuki suit, you can temporarily fly by rapidly mashing A over and over again. This can be very useful for skipping high jumps, and is even required for secrets and as well completing levels. There's also these awesome P feathers that give you infinite flying for a whole level. They are ridiculously fun to use. In general, these are some of the best power-ups in the series, and there's a reason why they come back in later games. My only real gripe that I have with the raccoon power-ups is that the attack can be a little finicky to get the hang of at first. There's a bit of a delay from being vulnerable to actually dealing your blow on an enemy. It's consistent, but it does require you to learn how to time your tail swings. But you could look at that as just adding more depth. In general, this game handles power-ups way better than the other games so far. One of the many design flaws of the first game was that the power-ups were either not in the levels at all, or put in dangerous areas, which makes getting them almost a waste of time. This game does still do that occasionally, and I don't like how the mushrooms now move in the opposite direction you are facing whenever you hit the block, but I still found myself having power-ups 12 times more often than ever. What helps is that you even get opportunities outside of the levels to get extra power-ups. The Toad houses are very much an iconic staple of the 2D Mario games. They allow you to pick a chest of 3, giving you the chance to get a new power-up to take with you along the adventure. The great thing is that any power-ups that you get can have a use, even the normal mushrooms. This isn't the only way to get power-ups though. In the main hub worlds, there are these enemies roaming free. Walk into them and you'll be teleported in an area to fight them. Beating them can result in either getting power-ups or these level skips. The power-ups are of course useful, but the level skips are things that I just didn't bother using, since if you die in the next level, you will be sent back to the one that you skipped anyway. But since I'm talking about fighting enemies already, I might as well go over how enemies are in this game. These are designed way better than the last 3, and all of the ones in this game are still regularly featured in the series to this day. This game introduces us to so many mainstays, there's too many for me to count. But either way, they are all designed around Mario's moveset in mind, along with some of the more annoying ones being tweaked to be less annoying, except for Lakitu. The Hammer Bros are far less aggressive than they were in the first game, and throw less hammers that are way easier to dodge. Also, running into enemies due to the screen crunch doesn't happen as much as in 2 or 1. Which is nice. Going back to the power-ups, all of the ones from 1 are here, including 2 new ones, not including the Leaf and Tanuki suit, the Frog suit and Hammer suit. The Hammer suit is unfortunately a suit that I only used once, but seems very useful for water levels, since they throw upwards instead of downwards like the Fire Flower, and it falls in an arc where it can hit an enemy below, which is cool. The real star of the show is the Frog suit. Not great for platforming, but amazing for swimming. It makes any underwater level into a fucking cakewalk. It's insane. I really wish it was the default power-up for World 3, since it would have made the levels there so much more bearable, but we'll get to that soon. And if you still can't attack due to the lack of power-ups, fear not. You can now pick up things to attack other enemies, which overall makes Mario feel more agile. Another major improvement is lives. Not only do you get 4 instead of 3, but getting 1-up mushrooms is significantly easier than it was before. Not just for being easier to find and earn in the levels with more coins or locations to find them, but with all the other ways to get 1-ups too. When you finish a level, you get a card, and if you get 3, it gives you an extra life. But if you get 3 of one kind, you get way more. There's also this matching card game that allows you to get extra power-ups, lives, and coins. Then finally, there's this lineup minigame where if you get the perfect image, you are given some 1-ups. I really like how they have taken the idea of giving the player more chances to get lives through luck-based minigames from 2 and just run with it. The chances of you getting extra lives are even higher than before.
But oh no, I'm not good at this game. I'm losing lives regardless. So what do I do when I get a game over? Aside from save stating. Well, unlike the other games, if you game over in 3, it restarts you from the worlds rather than the whole game. How great. Still, had to use save states because I'm not very good at this game, but it's progress.
But what if there are no power-ups nearby at this level? Well, now you can take every power-up you've earned in minigames and save it for the next level. This comes in really handy throughout the whole game and can give you more of a fair head start, especially if you aren't the best at playing the classic Mario games like me. I guess there are other things in this game that I could talk about, like the warp whistle or something, but I never got one. From what I've heard, it lets you skip entire worlds, but are very well hidden. So it could be good for speedruns.
Even though Super Mario Bros. 3 is a ridiculously good game, it's not a perfect one, and a lot of my problems stem from the level design.
I know that saying that is essentially the Mario equivalent to being blasphemous. To be clear, the level design is good overall, and the best in the trilogy. But it can still have its frustrating moments, particularly in Worlds 3 and 6, and maybe World 8. World 3 is the water world, and while the water levels are definitely better than the previous games, they're still not very fun. They're just too slow, and the swimming controls in all 2D Mario games just feel like a handicap. Obviously, they're way more tolerable with the frog suit, but you can't get it through the levels. You can only get it through minigames. World 6, on the other hand, is fucking terrible and easily the low point of the entire game. The ice physics aren't the worst, but it still makes platforming very annoying, and there's shit to dodge almost constantly. They also, of course, had to put a water level in here. That was so irritating to go through that I didn't even finish it. In fact, there were 2 levels that I didn't even finish, and both of them were from World 6. On that account, we go into the hub worlds, because they made it possible to avoid some levels, thank god. This is the very first game in the series to have a level select hub world. It's nothing crazy, but it is very nice that this time they let you bypass levels that you may have found too tricky. Going into World 8, it isn't as bad as 6. Another thing that's going against World 6 is that it's the longest world in the game, which makes it even worse. World 8, on the other hand, is much shorter, and I appreciate that. Although there still can be some levels that are very fucking annoying to go through. But I do like this part where you can randomly get grabbed into an enemy gauntlet. It shows the more unpredictable side of Darkland.
I would like to stop bitching about the level design though, because while there is still some work to do in terms of polishing up this aspect, it's still good.
One thing that I have always liked about this game's levels is the fact that they are very short. Now, there is still a legit criticism to make about the idea of a level being too short, but I personally prefer a level being short than long, especially coming off the previous game. And getting into the levels themselves, this is just really good. So many great ideas for these levels, and makes platforming more interesting and fun. World 4 in particular was my favorite. Everything being bigger than normal made the gameplay have a different spin. I also like how World 5 essentially has 2 halves, starting from the ground and then naturally transitioning into the sky. Most of the levels are fun platforming challenges, and their short length makes dying to them way less painful. Although, to briefly jump back into criticism, they didn't get rid of all the bad level choices from the other games. Clearly they can't help but bring back these damn pick-a-lane levels from 1 and LL. And there are some other levels that have pretty poor communication of what to do. This one castle level has this very high jump that's almost impossible to make, and once you do make it, it's a dead end. That is ridiculously fucking cruel. What you actually need to do instead is find a warp pipe on the ceiling to go into that is off screen, forcing you to guess where it is. You guys belong in hell.
But hey, the level design is still pretty good. Yeah.
For the 4th time in a row, all of the bosses are the exact same, except the last one. This is the game that introduces us to the new battle formula of jumping on the enemy's head 3 times, you win. This game introduces us to Boom Boom along with, like I said earlier, the Koopalings. All of these are defeated in this exact way. Very quick, very easy, kinda sucks. The final boss with Bowser is the only one that's actually different. You're on this brick platform, and after Bowser shoots 2 fireballs out, he jumps and breaks a part of the platform. You need to lure him into an area where he keeps breaking the platform until he falls through. It's fine. I'm glad that this Bowser boss fight is one of the few that actually tries something different, but it really is just repeating this back and forth luring until he dies. So the boss fights are without a doubt getting better, but they're still pretty bland. The graphics have seen another technical leap with this game, making it the best looking game of the NES trilogy. I prefer the colors in 2 USA, but 3's sprite work is just very well done. Once again, giving the environments detail without it looking too ugly, and character designs and animations having personality to them. It achieves the same goals from the last game, but even better. The drawback is that this game was pushing the NES's hardware so far that the scrolling mechanic is showing imperfections. You can easily see the levels build themselves on the screen as you are moving towards the right. It's not too bad, but something that is pretty much impossible to miss. Apart from that, this game does a great job with pushing the NES to the limit. The music is yet another thing about this game that is just great. This just might be the very best soundtrack on the NES. Koji Kondo really outdid himself this time. Just listen to these tunes, man.
Time for the end! Time for the end! Look out, Bowser! This is where you ascend!
So after beating World 7, we are given a message that the princess has been kidnapped, which means yes, at the last possible second, the story transitions into...
A damsel in distress story!
You beat Bowser, open this rainbow door, and then we do not save Princess Peach? Ah, never mind. Bitch just tried to fuck with our heads. All is well with the Mushroom World. That's the end of the beloved Super Mario Bros. 3. I enjoyed this game. This game does a really good job with refining what they started a couple years prior, with the controls, level design, presentation, and so forth. But even with that, it still does have room for improvement. This game can still suffer from some of the shortcomings of the other entries and such, but it won't be enough for me to not say that this is still a very good game. If you ask me, this is the first game in the franchise that is truly good. It stands the test of time well enough, I'd say. This is Super Mario Bros. 3, so no matter what angle I take this in, this will forever be one of the most iconic and important platformers ever made. On the scale of quality, Super Mario Bros. 3 gets a very high 7 out of 10. Take it.
I'd say that this has been a very successful Super Mario Summer. I managed to make 3 episodes of Take It or Leave It in just a month. Can't lie. Kinda feel proud of that. Obviously, these are NES games, so there won't be much material to work with anyway. Whether or not these are on par with my usual uploads is up to you. But to those Mario fans that are watching and enjoying, I should be able to make a video on one more Mario game for this year. I'm confident about this because the next game really doesn't have much going for it. This was MacDrive you just watched. See you on the other side.